Hey everyone, so today we're going to go over how to apply for a job. I know I went over the features of USAJOBS before, but today we're actually going to go through the application process to kind of show you what that would look like. I logged into USAJOBS. Make sure you create your profile. I know I went over that in a video before, but the profile process, it's super simple. Just follow the instructions, but I went over like the different parts of your profile and why it's important. So today we're going to go over saved searches. So then that way you can see what the application process looks like. I'm going to go view results and see what's out there. There's no remote jobs. So I am going to look for a specific agency. I want the VA, and right now there's only 2 program analysts, and this one, they're both in District of Columbia. This one's the Digital Health Office. It's a 13, and that's basically what my grade is. So it gives you a summary of what the job application is. You can kind of take a look, different duties. Here it gives you what they're looking for as far as your qualifications. Again, it's an analyst position, and this one is also supporting, basically it's called the OCC's Enterprise Data Infrastructure. So you can research what OCC stands for, and that is the Office of Connected Care. This one is eligible, so I can go ahead and take a look at it and apply. Part of the application process is looking at the whole job description, like how you will be evaluated. That's important, and the required documents. Right now it just requires the resume and the SF50, but I can add additional ones to kind of supplement to make sure that they know as far as my disability, any type of transcripts with my master's degree, and then also like as far as the disability letter, there's also the SF15, that's veterans prep. We're going to go through the application process. So click apply, and I select my resume, save and continue. I also select my documents. Again, they mentioned the SF50, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. So I go ahead and I picked the resume and the SF50. That was the requirement, but I'm going to go ahead and add my disability letter. I'm going to add my transcript. I'm going to add my DD-214, and the SF15 is that veteran preference form. So those are the things that I want to include. So I'll go ahead and save and continue. So you can see all the selected documents. I acknowledge and save and continue. Now it's going to give me the demographic details if I want to share, and then you can complete the survey. So for me, it's like searching USAJOB website, and then continue with my application with the agency, continue the agency site. So here's when they're like linking it to the questionnaire portion. And then this is one of those things you kind of have to pay attention to. Make sure you select the right. Okay, continue. So you double check, make sure your profile is correct. So this portion right here is we're going over eligibility. I pre-filled it out, so then this way I can kind of walk you through it without having to go through, because you have to read it carefully. Sometimes the question, it looks like it repeats itself, but a slight difference, so you have to answer it as accurately as possible. A lot of it is basically determining your veteran's preference, your service connection, what conditions were you separated from in the military? Are you currently in the military and then exiting, or are you somebody that served before and did you serve more than 3 years? Did you acquire a service connection? So those are things you can focus on. Then also they look at if you are a current employee, or were you an employee before of the federal government, just a different agency, but you were part of a reduction in force and you were displaced and you're applying for employment. So the whole goal is to give preference to those people in need, like they already had federal service and they're able to just transition into this new agency, or they're veterans, or they're getting ready to separate and they're expecting a service connection. We want to make sure that those preferences are highlighted in the eligibility process. So make sure you pay attention to the different things in bold. So when you're answering a question, because it's basically that question and whatever requirements are underneath, you have to meet. And that's part of the qualification process. So when we click continue, go ahead and asking for the required documents, and it's going to go through the preference. So here the preference, if you're a political appointee, that needs to be included, but I am not part of that. I put down none of the above. I'm not considered current or recent last 5 years political appointee. But here, pay attention to the resume and include the following information: job title, duties, detailed as possible, and we talked about that, month and year, start and end dates. So it gives you the format. Full-time or part-time, you have to include that, and include the hours that you work. So if you're part-time, be specific, because they're asking for it. So put that on there. If you work 32 hours, if you work 24, because like sometimes people consider full-time like 32 hours and above, but that matters. If they're asking for it, please put that down. Series and grade, if you've already had a federal position, that series kind of determines, your skill set. I mean, like we looked at that before and showed you this is a management and program analyst type position. I've had like that grade series, I've had a health system specialist grade series, and I've had a coding, medical records type of series. So that is one of those things to kind of see what the different skill sets are. And then right here, please be aware that your answers will be verified and against any information provided on your resume. So they're going to check that. So make sure your resume is on point and as you're filling out these applications. So now we'll go ahead and click continue. Okay, here we have the assessment portion of the application. This is basically back in the day, it's like knowledge, skills, and assessment. So this is you answering the questions as honestly as possible. This will let you know if you actually meet the qualification of the job that you're applying for. I went ahead and went through the assessment, so then that way I can kind of show you what that looks like. So first, they look at the time and grade. Have you met the requirement? Because like for the next grade up, you have to have at least 52 weeks at the previous level or at that current level. And so I've been at 13 for over 52 weeks, then I can answer yes. But as we go through the questions, it's basically outlining what they're looking for in the position. It grades your skill set. Like, are you not performing the job that question is asking about, or are you closely being supervised, or are you doing it independently, or are you considered an expert? So answer that honestly, because they are going to look at your resume and then qualify you based off of that, because you can't say you're an expert in something when you're been in the position for 1 year. Honesty is the best policy for when it comes to this, because you don't want to waste their time and your time if you don't qualify for the position. And I don't meet this. I usually stop and leave it incomplete. Usually people try to game the system and get in, to the interview. They're going to answer D and E, right? But from like the manager's perspective, it's just wasting our time, because I know you answered D and E, but when you get to the interview and we start asking you questions and you don't fit, you just wasted a slot. I have to be mindful of that, because if I just want to get the grade, I might be blocking somebody that is more qualified than me but will not get the position because I happen to be a veteran. So I have to be honest about that. I'd rather have the best person for the job. And if it's not me, this questionnaire and this section will answer it. So as you can see in some of the questions, I've done the job, done it independently. I don't consider myself an expert, because an expert to me is like you're actually teaching somebody else to do it. So, but there's a couple of sections in here when I am like, closely monitored. I haven't done a lot of it. Some of the systems in here, it's not just, this is at a national level. So they are looking for somebody that's able to manage a project, but manage to roll it out VA wide. I don't have that experience, but I'm going to go ahead and answer the questions as honestly as I can. Most likely I will not get to the interview. They're not looking for somebody who's going to do the job and they have to watch. They need somebody that's a D&E, which means they perform it independently or they're an expert. So I answered it as honestly as I can, and then we'll go ahead and click. Here we are at the tail end of the application process. you can see what's required, right? It's when I answered some of those questions, initially when you applied, an SF50 and a resume was the requirement. But when I started filling out the eligibility information, I'm a veteran, so I need to supply all these other required documents. Since I've already uploaded it, they would have it on their little section of selected documents. I select my DD-214, I select my benefit summary letter, I select my resume, all right, and I select my SF50, which is this one right here. Have to be careful because they like the SF. So SF15 or SF50. Make sure you link the right one. And then you can add additional ones. So here I have the SF15, and then I also have my transcript. So I'm going to go ahead and add that on there. And then if I'm missing anything that I want to add, like let's say I had answered the separation notice, like basically a RIF, I would have to upload it here. If I am claiming preference because I'm married to a veteran or I'm married to an active duty, I would have to upload it here. Any type of certifications, my performance appraisal, if I wanted to include it, I can add it here. And then, you know, depending on what you're applying for, sometimes it might require a license. We do have clinical people at the VA. So, you know, if you're a nurse, you're a social worker, you're a physician, they might want you to put that information in there. And then sometimes a cover letter, it's helpful if you want to stand out. It's nice to have, but it's not something that we really focus on when we're reviewing the application and grading them. After you hit continue, make sure that you are green, so that is complete. You have filled out your application, you've completed your assessment, and you uploaded your documents, and then you submit the application. And that's it. So now expect to receive a notification that you applied, and it's going to put it on your email, and then as the status and you move through the process, it's going to send you information. So the next thing is, you know, hey, you made it to the hiring manager. Hey, you were referred or not referred. And then they'll just say, you know, basically, sorry, we selected somebody else. So that is the process. Hopefully that was helpful. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. So continue to click subscribe and follow as I share additional information. Have a great day. Thank you.